Rust on the sidelines, flames licking skies. TBI Chevy rumbles, but a dream's alive. Broken piston scream, coolants kiss goodbye. Shaking wagon howls while journeys defy.
Really none of this stuff on the forums.
Yeah.
G30 panel peeling, paint can't lie. In the garage, rebirth wrench welds and tries. 8 trips to O'Reilly's, hot speed and dry. Distributors dance through the smoky highs. Then from the ashes, the phoenix of the road, shooting flames to the horizon, stories untold.
Hey guys, today I just picked up, well I didn't pick it up, I got dropped off. That was convenient. 89 Chevy G30 1-ton panel van. I've always wanted a van for many reasons. Hauling dirt bikes, camping, car shows because I like the older ones. Custom vans are just cool. Right now, this thing needs a head gasket, I was told. We're pulling plugs because you hit the key and nothing really happens. It sounded like the engine was stuck. And a bunch of coolant just came out of one cylinder. We're gonna take all the plugs out, crank it over, get it running after that. I'm gonna try out some K-Seal, see how long that works, and then eventually do heads. It came with head gaskets and the bolts. There's a lot I want to do with this over the long run, but for now, just get it running. TH400, 14 bolt rear end, 8 lug, 342 gears. So yeah, the inside's kind of not great, but it's got wood paneling with some foam board underneath it. It's got a Kenwood radial. I got a swivel seat there, and I got the other swivel thing right here. The tire actually rubs on this door, but tires are decent. It's got a good hitch on it. You can tell this kind of looks like it's been replaced just because how it's shaped, but I mean, the rust isn't that bad.
Just gas. You can kind of see it puffing. Oh yeah, there's a little bit on the back one. That crank's good.
Yeah, it's a little wet. Should we add some oil?
No. You got the injector spraying? That's what I'm checking right now.
I hear the fuel pump.
Go. Go for it. Getting nothing out of the injectors.
No injectors?
Nothing out of the old toilet bowl injector.
All right, so we cranked this, had no spark, no fuel. We checked fuses, they were good, but I also have another TBI Chevy, and I always keep an extra ignition control module with me because they're known to go out. We replaced that, and now we have fuel and spark, I'm pretty sure. This thing.
That's a brand new one.
Yeah, brand new one in the truck's been in there for like 4 years.
All right, well,
crank it.
All right, let's see if it starts.
Running. A little bit wet.
60 psi of oil pressure. Smells a little bit like coolant. Yeah, I think your head gaskets are bad.
So, let's fill it with water and go for a ride. Right.
We got K-Seal we're gonna try out. Shake well, dump her in. And then we got a temp gauge going in.
There we go.
Temporarily.
It's just hanging there.
Couldn't even make it up to the hose without it hydrolocking again. Number 8. Oh, damn it.
Get out. All right, it's clear quickly. We gotta go.
K-Seal is a big job.
Yeah, come on, K-Seal. You got a lot to do.
It could be the slightest pinhole though, and
Yeah, or the block could be just fucked.
yeah, the actual block could be warped.
All right.
Oh, grab it, fine. Just settle down. It is working, right?
She's warming up. It's at 220 and it's climbing.
Uh-oh.
I know, it's at 220 and climbing right now. You might have to let it sit for a little bit.
It's not circulating into the block yet, so we're taking out the thermostat because we need all this coolant to go into the block for the best chance for that head gasket stuff to work.
Don't even clean it. Just throw the anaerobic on there.
Yeah, we don't care.
And we'll slap it on there. And
Nice,
We don't care.
nice fat bead. Anaerobic at the very least was going to seal it probably better than the head gasket stuff.
That's cool. K-seal did not work. Oil's starting to get all milk shaky on us. So yeah, the K-seal did nothing. It's leaking right into cylinder 8, like right away. You shut it off, let it sit for a while, it just drips in, locks up. That's not good. What I got right here is also a 350 from an 89 Chevy truck. Had a knock. We weren't sure what it was. We thought it would be rod bearings, so we took them apart and we didn't see any signs that they were bad. It could also have a head gasket issue. Blown out between two cylinders can sometimes sound like a tick or a knock. We got new head gaskets and bolts. We're going to take these heads off, put in gaskets, get new bearings, whatever gaskets we need, freshen up, paint it, throw it in, and see how long we can run it before we have any other issues. We're thinking rings and the cam are fine. That's the plan. And we're going to try to do all this in one weekend. It's Memorial Day weekend, so everyone gets Monday off. Pull it out tomorrow, piece together a 350 out of 2 engines, and then we'll probably be throwing it back in. I don't know about Sunday, maybe Monday, and then after that I can put the grill and all the other crap back together, fill it up with fluids. This is why it had a tick, head gasket blown out in between the cylinders. But engine doesn't look too bad, just got some sludge in it. Alright, I'm getting the radiator pulled out and the grill. Trav got the exhaust off and he's undoing all the wires right now. Tim's working on the block. We got the generator running the compressor. Those are sunk.
This is not the proper way.
But this is the way.
Don't look too close at it.
We checked the head for warpage with the worst straight edge from Harbor Freight you could buy. And it looked to be only about a 1/2 thou gap where the head gasket was blown out, so she's mint. This one was also starting to become crap. It's all smushed out. Airing down the tires so it fits my garage better because it's close. What's it at?
80 and about 80 inches right now.
Okay, garage door is like 82. So with my cherry picker, this part's so tall that we're at this angle. We're not even all the way in there yet. This is basically hitting the cowl. Gotta figure out something. Torquing the rod bolts to 45 foot-pounds, we noticed that they were starting to stretch, and then the next one broke. So we just knocked it out with a punch. And then we took 4 out of the donor engine using a pry bar and a slide hammer, just enough to get that nut started. And then we torqued them around 40 foot-pounds, and they didn't stretch. That's not black. Give it a minute.
There we go.
Transferring to the Army Green now. Add 5 quarts in it. I'm gonna say 8 comes out.
About 8 comes out. These are all flowing. This side, still nothing to this side yet. Oh, it might be starting. Maybe I keep going.
So when we put the oil pan on, this is what we found in there. Stuck under the windage tray. That's a piece of my piston skirt. So since it's cracked horizontally and not vertically up the piston, we can just ignore that and pretend we didn't see it. We couldn't use the pistons out of the donor engine because they were bored 40 over, and these are stock pistons. there was this weird wear spot in the bore on the old engine, so it's definitely going to need to be bored 60 over, which is probably the max you can go on a small block Chevy. And here's a pinhole that was in the head, causing that major coolant leak. After putting the intake on, we gave it a thick coat of black paint, and at that point, I was owner of a brand new crate engine, basically. Whenever you're painting, you have to be aware of overspray because you'll get on anything.
I think you missed the spot right over there. Oh, there you go. A bunch of goddamn drunkards.
And it's been pouring rain. It started raining maybe at noon or 1, and now it's 10:30 at night. It's been raining steady. So hopefully that quits raining. So we put in new head gaskets, intake gaskets, oil pan gasket, connecting rod bearings, main bearings we left alone. We didn't polish the crank. We just scuffed the head with a Wizzy wheel and put some silicone in this little low spot we saw. We didn't see much warpage. It was maybe 2 thou at the most where it blew out. It wasn't bad, but
Thick head gaskets.
head gasket's 50 thou thick roughly, and that should take up the clearance. Different pulley setup, getting rid of the smog pump. And we don't have AC, so we had to get a different belt. The flex plate was cracked. Also, when we were torquing the connecting rod bolts in this, I noticed the first like 3 were fine. And my buddy's going, and the torque wrench kind of stayed yellow. We got the one that lights up. It goes like yellow, green, red. When you're getting close, it lets you know. And it just kind of stayed yellow. Yellow. And we're like, uh-oh. Seems like it's stretching. And then it went beep. Okay, we're good. And then the next one, same thing. Yellow. Snap. We snapped the connecting rod stud. So we took the ones out of this block. We got them out with a punch. And then we put them back in using a pry bar. Pressed it in there. And then one of them we had to use a slide hammer to knock it in. We knocked it in. Torqued them all. They didn't stretch. We can see the ones that we torqued good. The nut was only like 1 or 2 threads past the end of the stud, and the ones that were stretching were like 3 or 4 or 5 threads past the top of the stud. So that's how you know if they're stretching. If they're stretching, just snap them. It doesn't matter.
Don't worry, they'll come flying out later.
Overall build costs like 3 jugs of coolant. The KCO alone is $30. That was a waste, and it got throughout the whole engine, the oiling system. It was caked in the cylinder, just copper everywhere.
Still gotta clean out the rad.
Yeah,
that'll be fun.
That'll be easy, but just close it out best we can. Overall, just the cost of this. Gaskets were the main cost, and the bearings. About $400 into this.
2 days of labor.
Oh yeah, the flex plate was $40, $42. Motor mounts were junk. Those were only $12 a pop. And we got all this just at O'Reilly's and AutoZone on the weekend. We didn't order anything ahead of time, which is pretty cool that they have all this stuff in stock yet from these older 350s.
It'd get it cheaper if you bought it online if you had time.
Oh yeah, if I planned this out, I would have spent like $200 to rock auto and got everything. And tear this old block down, see what shape it's in. Might save a few parts, and the rest are just gonna scrap. Because I don't know if the block's savable. We had board 40 over in that one cylinder. It's got a decent ridge on it, big scuff mark. So I don't know if that's savable. The heads I don't want. They're just TBI. They're not the Vortec heads that were one of GM's best production cylinder heads for small block Chevy. Heads are junk. I don't care about the valves. I have another 350 that I want to do a really nice build on when this thing goes out.
If it does.
If it does. We're like, it's either going to run for 2 days or 2 years at the minimum. Like, it's either going to work fine off the get-go, or something's going to happen within like a month.
And it's going to let go.
But I actually have faith in it, but we don't know.
We don't know yet.
Because we're these big backyard
rebuilders
that we know what we're doing out
nowadays,
here.
yeah.
Really, none of this stuff on the forums really matters.
Yeah.
That people talk about. Engine didn't have a flex plate on it, so we took the one out of the van to make sure it would fit. Because this is a goofy, it's a TH400 that was a reman, and they don't do that anymore as far as transmissions, so it's, I don't know, could be from the early 2000s reman. And it had 6 bolts on the torque converter instead of your usual 3, so we're trying to figure out Was this swapped from something else? Is this supposed to be on this engine? Will it fit this engine from the pickup? And it's all the same actually, but we found out that it was cracked in the process of all that, so it's like, had to get a new one. I mean, you could probably hammer that flat and weld it, but it's kind of warped.
And a new one was what? 40?
40 bucks, not bad for like, and these engines are internally balanced. I think this is weighted, but I know sometimes if you swap out balancers and flex plates, that'll affect the balance of your engine. But the one we bought's basically identical to this, so. So when we got this van, it barely cranked because cylinder 8 was filling up with coolant. We took that plug out, cycled the coolant out, and it still didn't start. So, because it didn't have spark and the injectors weren't spraying fuel. And this is actually a common problem on these TBI Chevys. If that happens to you, the guy replaced the whole distributor. And probably, I don't know if he did the coil too, but he's probably chasing down spark issues. And all it was is this ignition control module. And that's pretty common to go out because like when these go out, you lose spark and fuel, and you could be chasing that for a long time. But you just take your distributor cap off. You don't have to take the wires off or nothing, and then 2 bolts bolted in, and then it started right up. This whole unit is fresh, and now it's shake.
We cleaned that off, right? Yeah. No, I mean, we can just throw it in. You know how to install that, though?
Yeah, you gotta like unplug a brown wire apparently, and set your timing, and then plug it back in. But 180 out, I'm heading out. Doesn't matter.
Okay.
Pulling out these lifters, just see what they look like. The lifters look fine, but I don't know if I trust them over time. What type of oil's been ran through them? I thought that Chevy 350 switched to hydraulic roller cams in 87, but I think that was just the 4.3s because we tore apart a 4.3 from an 89, and it had the dog bone things here to keep the lifters from spinning, tray thing that holds the dog bones down, which is what these bolts are for. And all these blocks have them already drilled and tapped. They just never did it until I think 95. So if you wanted to go with a roller cam on these blocks, you could. If you're breaking in the cam, you got to use high zinc oil. If you're not breaking it in, I don't think you have to use high zinc because nobody knows about that who's got an 89 Chevy. And these things run 200,000 miles, no issues. Oh. Oh.
Chunks?
Chunks. Oh, yep. Had a little bit too much to drink. What was that?
I don't know what that was.
Looked like a good sized bowl.
Oh, it's
the
just
oil pump shaft.
It's just oil pump shaft.
It did have a little bit too much to drink because it takes 5.5 quarts and it drained out 8 or so.
No,
because coolant.
Okay.
Yeah, belts on, motor mounts, transmission, header, or manifolds, spark plugs are in it. We'll leave the distributor out for now, and yeah, I think we can get the van in here now. We got the engine in. We're hooking up power steering right now. I'm going to put the radiator in, wire everything, put the throttle body back on. I'm going to show you guys how to put the distributor in and time this thing. That's pretty much it. This is what happens when you run coolant through your engine for too long. It gets in your oil thins out, it doesn't lubricate, main bearings go bad. I'd say they go bad before the rod bearings, but main bearings are really critical to your oil pressure, so even if you do oil changes to flush out all that water in your oil, you're still gonna have issues. Unfortunately, if that ever happens, you gotta catch it soon. Don't drive it around like I did. But hey, we had to have some fun. This engine stock makes 210 horsepower, 300 foot-pounds of torque. It's not bad for torque, but horsepower is kind of lacking. 327s back in the day made about 300 to 350 horsepower. They didn't have smog heads, had bigger valves, higher compression. So I'm gonna get going on this. I gotta say though, working on the van, everything's really easy to get at. There's no big section of frame in your way, or if you gotta get something from up top, you just hop inside and it's all right there. This torque converter has 6 bolts. We got a new flex plate because the other one was cracked. And I go to line up these holes and it's like, this is not even close. But you go on the other set of 3 and it's good. Gotta make sure that's all the way in. Flywheel has a weight right here. And I noticed that torque converter's got a little weight right here. So I'm putting it 180 out from this. I don't know if that matters. And torque converter is all the way in right now. You can see we got a little gap. So I got some washers. Just gonna put them in there, because that's how it's done, right? So yeah, there's still a lot of things that need to hook up yet, but you kind of just lay the harness back on and things are kind of just gonna lay where they originally went because of all the memory in these wires. Oil pressure sensor, 2 sensors go down in transmission. This goes to your distributor. This line comes up off the transmission, off that vacuum port to here. This goes over to alternator. I think that's a coolant temp sensor. So I gotta put the starter in. Big ground going to the block here. These wires run all the way down. Knock sensor, the other tiny little wires for a starter. All right, so the next thing we're gonna do is install this distributor. And I watched a lot of videos on these, and a lot of people just take them out wherever the engine's at in its rotation, and they put it right back in where it's gonna be. Well, I'm kind of starting from scratch, so we're gonna find top dead center, and you have to be on the compression stroke. So we took out the spark plug, and I'm gonna crank the engine over, put my thumb over the hole, and when I'm getting close to 0 on the marks on the balancer, I'm gonna kind of make sure that it's blowing compression at my thumb, and it should pop your thumb off the hole. I have a whole video on this from the Bel Air Basics. If you don't know what I'm talking about, go back, check it out. But you find top dead center so you're on the compression stroke. That way you know you're not 180 out. So down here on the timing chain cover, we got this tab, 2, 4, 6, 8, 12 degrees. And the mark closest to this pipe thing, I have marked at 0. And then I also made a mark on the balancer. There's a groove in the balancer, and we need to get those marks to line up and make sure we're on compression stroke. Now, you can also take your valve cover off, and as you're turning the engine over, you'll know if you're on the compression stroke because both the intake and exhaust rockers won't be moving. If you see one dip down, then you know you're not on the compression stroke, so you can go another full turn, and then that way you'll be on the compression stroke. I don't hear anything. This. Alright, so it's a little hard to do this by myself, so I took the valve cover off and we're going to watch the valves. The mark's coming around now. So once you know both your rockers aren't moving and you can feel compression, that you're on the compression stroke, you're going to take your distributor. I know it kind of sits in there about like this. And you can see that, yeah, that rotor's pointing towards cylinder 1. And looking at the gear, it's kind of at a 45. So I have to line up the oil pump so that it's like this. Right now it's about like this. Just gotta get yourself a long screwdriver. Just gonna drop it in. Here right now, it dropped in fully and it's facing forward. We gotta get that rotor pointed this direction. Basically turn that pump shaft so it's horizontal. Point your rotor towards like cylinder 3. Just like this. And it drops in, and as it drops in, it rotates towards 1. Let's make sure this is fully seated. So now that we got the distributor shaft meshed with the cam and the oil pump how it should be, rotor's facing the correct way, I'm going to make a mark right here where the rotor's facing. When we bolt the cap on, we can orientate the distributor so that number 1 post is right there where the rotor should be. Check your cap for wear. This one actually looks pretty good. So we're just gonna tighten down your cap. 9/16 wrench down here. Just get it snug. If that don't work, okay, get yourself one of these 9/16. Just like that, tighten it up. So going from this post to this post to cylinder 1, we're lined up basically right there. And I'm gonna make it a smidge advanced right about there for the first startup. Plug in your wires. The wires off our coil. Plug in. If you have a truck, this is going to be somewhere around your glove box. It's a brown wire with a black stripe. You're going to want to unplug this. If you unplug this, the computer won't change your timing. So you set your distributor. After your vehicle's warmed up, shut it off, plug this back in. And then when you start it back up, it'll run a little bit different. The computer's going to take over on the advance. First start.
Pump's going?
Yep. No leaks up there?
No leaks. Fire extinguisher?
You gotta plug that distributor in, maybe?
Maybe.
It is plugged in.
It is plugged in?
Yep.
Battery seems a little low.
Yeah, battery does seem a little low. I know, I'll try it again. You got it 180 out? Doesn't it sound like it is? Did I have it backfire that much?
180 out, I'm heading out. Doesn't matter.
But it is firing. It's got enough fuel to crank, but it's all blowing out of the throttle body. So doesn't that kind of say that it's 180 out?
I mean, it did try to fire off there a little bit.
I mean, I could turn the distributor.
I
But
really
don't
hear
know.
a lot of backfire through the carb.
Yeah, it's
TBI.
backfiring purely back through the throttle body.
So when I put the distributor in, it had no compression. So I redid all the valves, but if I went more than a third of a turn, they were tight.
yeah,
And I wonder if it's still hanging up valves. Like, which doesn't make sense though, because I barely gave them a quarter of a turn. But before some of them were too tight.
you got a wrench to take off this distributor, because I do remember these plugs facing towards Tim's knee and not Tim's ass. Like they were like way over here.
That sounds a lot better.
That sounds a lot better.
Damn it, Kyle.
Yeah. We just turned the rotor some more and moved all the plug wires around one, not one post.
It should have fired off there.
We might have to hit it with more juice, because this battery does sound pretty dead.
Does that mean we're retarded or advanced? Are we retarded?
It's like, well, yes.
Wow. I feel dumb. I'm so proud of knowing my firing order, but I went the wrong direction around the cap.
No wonder, I'm like, this thing.
And we could have also had the distributor where it was. It was backwards.
It was backwards.
Because as long as that rotor's pointed towards one, but it's going wrong.
Hey, the starter cranks over a whole lot faster
Let's
now.
get the hell out
So
of
I
here.
rebuilt that starter for nothing.
Let's get the hell
Well,
out.
no, it needed it.
It
though.
works,
That
yeah.
starter was junk. This thing cranks over
It
twice.
still would have fired on
It
that
probably
other
would have
starter.
fired on it. Okay,
If
so
we had the right
Is there
order.
anything else we need to hook up? Or
I can leave. I'm gonna tighten this distributor down.
yeah, tighten it
I
down.
think
We
should
can time
plug
it
the
later.
injectors in for a little bit.
They are.
Run it a little.
Should we let it idle?
Yeah, let it
Let
run.
it idle.
Do we have oil? Yeah, watch your oil pressure.
10
See if that actually
Yeah.
does anything.
10-15 seconds before shutting it off.
All right, well, fire it up.
No gas.
Might need some.
Keep giving it gas.
pressure is not moving.
Oh, and we don't have it hooked up, I don't think.
It's idling. No ticking.
For a motor that I built here,
It doesn't tick either, so valves are fine.
Yeah, I didn't hear it ticking, so
I'm pretty happy with it.
All right, we finally got to run, and I'm kind of an idiot because I knew my firing order, but I had it backwards. So we're gonna flush out the block. I ain't got the thermostat in it. I'm just gonna run water into the upper hose, let it drain, and then set timing again. We can use the timing light now and get it right where it should be. Lock it down. Van's been running pretty dang good. We're gonna do an oil change. Sue comes out. Let's see what we got. I'm gonna try to catch some in this paint filter and see what we can catch, because I know there's some crud in here. Looks like a typical oil change. Really not that black. It's a little black, but not bad at all. I mean, this oil doesn't even have 500 miles on it. Not bad. So, I've been driving the van for a few weeks now. She runs flawlessly. No ticking, no smoke on startup. Power is good. Doesn't sound like it's got a misfire or anything. It's got new plugs, all that. Distributor is good. Basically, the whole ignition system is fresh. She runs good.